Well, y'all, I've got another episode of Bipolar coming from the DOJ. On one hand, we have a rising star, unlike we've seen in a hot minute. And on the other, I have a blonde potato that cannot seem to do anything right. This is going to be a fun one, guys. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on, because the DOJ, I swear to God, it's a tale of two cities. One for 2A rights, and one is like, what the hell are you doing? And even GOA is pissed. Everything's going to be linked in the description box below. Let's get right into this. I do not want to bury the lead. We got so much to cover. Let's get in. You can follow me on X at Braden LOA if you want. I'm going to start off with the rising star. Because you know what? The rising stars deserve more credit in this space. And I like to be positive for our country because we're going to win. So let's lead with the positive stars. This is AG Harmeet Dhillon. This is the Assistant Attorney General. This is the one in charge of the Civil Rights Department. She's already argued in the 7th Circuit against assault weapon bans this week. She's a rising star. She is actively participating in the defense and the furthering of our Second Amendment rights. She gets the golden cookie. In fact, I'm going to play an episode of her little clip right here where she goes down all the reasons why she's awesome. Not in her words, in mine, but she goes through a lot of evidence as to why she's doing a fantastic job, from the Braden decision to the actual Heller decision to the 7th Circuit to the AR bans to all the ways that they're screwing the pooch. And then that naughty list on the backside of this, yeah, just hang in there. Let's get into this. AG Harmeet Dhillon, let's get it. Let's see what she has to say.
So when you see in the wake of successive Supreme Court precedents, including Heller involving DC, and the ability to even own a handgun here, to the Braden case involving the right to be able to, for a lawful, law-abiding person to be able to bear arms that are legal and not unusual or, sort of unusually dangerous, then you're seeing states all over the country simply ignore those Supreme Court precedents. For example, where I used to live in California, I never even bothered to apply for a concealed carry permit in San Francisco because nobody ever got them unless they were a United States senator. Dianne Feinstein, I think, was like the last one to get one like 30 years ago or something, before that Braden decision came out. And today we are taking action against jurisdictions that are violating those federal civil rights by slow walking the permits, by banning entire categories of arms that we believe are lawful. It was my tremendous privilege on.
All right, so we're gonna finish this because it's really good. But here's a little bit of a primer for any of the new audience. We had a lot of people join the subscription list, and welcome to the party. Let me give you a primer if you're not familiar with what she's talking about, because this is incredibly important. The Heller decision and the Braden decision. The Heller decision said you have the right to keep a firearm in your own home. I know they actually tried to block that. If you're not familiar in DC, that led to a landmark decision called Heller. And then you had the Braden decision, which means basically courts can't just come in and make up whatever law they want for the public interest, as long as it works for the public interest. Your rights behind the public interest. So you had to have three things: history, text, and tradition, in order to do a gun law that was actually constitutional. So that's what she's referencing, Heller and Braden. Now, the rest of you who know what she's talking about, this is fire. Because this is the kind of stuff I need to see from an assistant attorney general. This is the kind of stuff of her arguing in front of a civil right around the 7th Circuit, around AR bans and mag bans. This is good. She is doing a phenomenal job. And you know who else is doing a phenomenal job? The sponsor of today's episode, Ammo Squared. Guys, there's a link to their Instagram page in the description box below. This is an innovative way to squirrel away money so you get some freedom seeds on demand whenever you want. Gets held and stored for you for free as you are accruing all of your acorns in a little pile, and then you can cash them in for those freedom seeds, because those freedom-loving squirrels out there in the audience, and then it gets shipped directly to you upon your desire, making you the happiest freedom-loving patriot squirrel out there. All right, guys, there's a link in the description box below. Check them out, and thank you to them for making this possible. Back to Harmeet, the rising star. Let's get it.
Earlier this week, to go to Chicago, and I think for the first time ever, to have a Senate-confirmed member of the Department of Justice stand up in court to defend the Second Amendment. And in that case, I was arguing the government's brief, which I and other colleagues here signed, that said that Illinois' so-called assault weapons ban that bans as many as 1,000 different firearms and attachments is unconstitutional. It is overly restrictive. It is at odds with the Supreme Court precedent. The Seventh Circuit made up its own weird test that is inconsistent with the Second Amendment. And so I urge the court to apply what the district court did, which is largely strike down that law.
All right. She's talking about striking down AR bans and MAG bans from the district court at the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals. Okay, if you're not familiar and you're not in the weeds on this, here's what you need to know. She is referencing prior Supreme Court decisions that are rendering rulings from states and appellate courts as unconstitutional because they're in conflict to Supreme Court decisions. That is what needs to happen from the Assistant Attorney General of the United States and the Attorney General. And now we get to the little bit of the backhand, because when they're good, they get credit, and when they are bad, they get a spanking. Here comes the spanking, because GOA has just stopped pulling the punches. Listen to this about what's happening at the AG level, Pam Bondi, okay? GOA says, what the heck is AG Pam Bondi doing? Trump's DOJ did not abandon any argument that Biden's DOJ made in their opening brief in defense of the Biden engaged in business rule. So that's a engaged in business rule that the ATF made for the Biden administration, which was extremely constricting on the Second Amendment. Okay? It appears that the government nevertheless believes it should prevail on the merits. That means it is staying put. Let me show you these documents they're dropping. Defendants have asked the court to reject plaintiff's claims and dismiss this case. That's the DOJ asking GOA, Gun Owners of America, to drop and reject the claims. No! The Trump administration then filed a reply brief that defended the final rule, defended the Biden-era administration gun control rule, engaged in business. Defendants did not abandon any argument they made in their opening brief, and defendants stated that the government nevertheless believes it should prevail on the merits. Translation, AG Bondi and the DOJ absolutely are backing the engaged in business rule from the DOJ and the ATF at the Biden administration. That's what they're doing. Here's another one. Judge says AG Pam Bondi asked the court to reject 2A claims against Biden's engaged in business rule, and anti-gun states concede that Bondi will protect their interest as long as the DOJ is defending Biden's final rule. Bondi has done just that. She's defending the gun control in the state level too by this decision. You guys need to send this one out because a lot of you have been following this very closely. Defendants have asked this court to reject plaintiff's claims and dismiss the case, as I mentioned. Actually, this is the exact same thing. This is what they're doing. Defendants did not abandon any argument that they made in their opening brief. Bondi is the bad child in this one. She deserves the spanking. And AG Dhillon, honestly, is doing some amazing work leading the Civil Rights Division in the Department of Justice, where she has argued consistently for Second Amendment rights and against the gun control. That requires accolades. Let me hear you in the comments in the chat on that one. And then the other is quite obvious. We need to apply a little bit of corrective pressure in the comments as well for our dear AG Bondi. And that's what I've got for you guys. Make sure you tune in later on where we have got to go so ham sandwich on Chris Murphy. He went out of the closet today in the gun control way, not the other way. And he just went ham. And we're going to be right there to make that sandwich. All right, guys, everything we link, make sure you check out the sponsor right down there as well, the Instagram page, and I will see you on the next one. I'm Braden. See you later.